Hello, my name is Nigel Cooney and I'm here today to demonstrate the new Pw14 Excel spreadsheet. And first off, what I'm going to do is just talk you through the various tabs so that you can see what you should have in the Pw14. I'll start off by just giving a brief overview of the template itself. The first tab that we have is the instruction tab, and this tab is really just a very brief summary of the process that you'll need to use while you're processing this. The next tab we have is the basic details tab, and when you've done your site visit you will use this tab to populate information, specify who the consultees are, and so on and so forth. So the next tab is a felling and restocking tab. This is going to look very similar to the plan of operations that you're probably very familiar with already. Notice we do have blue columns in here, which we'll get to in a moment. The next tab is known as the yellow tab, but it's also the compartment details auto tab. And this tab is where the information is automatically amalgamated and sorted for you in terms of a plan of operations as well as a standalone felling license. We then have the manual tab, which is the blue tab, and this tab is predominantly going to be used for standalone felling licenses, I think. I don't think we're going to be using this for a plan of operations because they're never usually that small. So this is really going to be just for small standalone felling licenses. And then the final tab we have is the condition details tab, and this is where you will go in and you will set your conditions as part of the process, and we'll look at each of these tabs in a bit more detail. So I'm going to start off with the standalone felling license process. So this is where we've had an application from a customer, and I will just show you a brief demonstration of what an application may look like in terms of felling details, which is there on the screen. And this is a very small felling license. There's not a great deal of information here, so you as a Woodland officer can make a decision as to whether you are going to manually work out this information and put it in the manual tab, or whether you want to use the auto tab, and we'll talk about the auto tab in a moment. So in terms of entering information into this manual tab, you have to type it in yourself. So you will be referring to the felling license and you'll be putting in the information just as I do here. I'm just going to put mixed broadleaf and mixed conifer, and the marking on the trees I believe was orange, and I'm going to have to work out what the areas are in terms of this. So the area for this is 1.2 and 0.8, so we're going to make that 2, and we don't have number of trees. I know that the age of trees, I know that for a definite. The number of trees is going to be 900 plus 500, so that's going to be 1400. And then here you'll notice we actually have a mixed conifer and a mixed broadleaf columns. In the felling license application we only have totals. We will notice in compartment 2 that there is a Norway spruce element. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to break out that conifer element from the broadleaf elements. So what I'm going to do, I've done my site visit and I know that there's going to be 60 cubic meters of conifer and the remainder is going to be of broadleaf, which is 260. So we've got the thinning elements entered in on this manual tab. So what we have when we look at the felling license is that we have compartment 1 also has some selective fell. We also noticed that some of it is broadleaf and some of it is conifer. So we are going to have to work out the calculations for this. And I've done my site visit, so I already know what the calculations are. So I'm going to enter in compartment 1 here, This I can put in oak because it is only oak. It's going to be marked by green. It's going to be 0.8 of broadleaf. We don't have age of trees. The number of trees is going to be 160. And then we're going to have no conifer because we're only entering the broadleaf element. So we're going to have 80 cubic meters of broadleaf. And then I can do compartment 1 in the conifer section. So this is going to be Norway spruce. This will also be marked as green. This is going to be 0.2. It's going to be 40. And in here I will be putting 20, but I leave the mixed broadleaf element as blank. Okay, so we've now entered in the basic information into the manual tab. The only other thing we have to do is down here at lines 16 and 17, and we have to give the total hectarage of conifer and the total hectarage of broadleaf, and this is so that the admin teams can enter that information on the public register. So you will need to work that information out from all of the elements. We've only entered 2 elements here, but you may have more in your final license. And that is pretty much your manual tab completed. So once you've completed that, you would then go straight on to the conditions details. As I said earlier, there is another way that you can process a standalone felling license, and that is using the auto tab. So you'll make a decision. You'll either use the yellow auto tab or you will use the blue manual tab, and this comes down to how you feel comfortable about entering the information. The auto tab is better in some ways because it will be doing a lot of the calculations and a lot of the sums for you, so you're not going to have to work some of that out. So if you have a particularly large standalone felling license, you may want to start using this particular process. And the way we do this is that the information that is on the felling license application form is going to be almost entered like it is on that form. So we're using the blue columns for a standalone felling license. So what I'll do is I'll go compartment 1. There isn't a subcompartment. I'll move across to here and I'll put in the information for compartment 1, which is 1.2. I will set that to thinning. And I know that I've got oak and I can't remember what the other was, and beech. So I'll put beech, and then I move across here, and because we don't have any conifer in this compartment, I'm going to put it straight into there, which was 200. And then we move to the next line, which is one line of selective fell. So I can put in compartment 1. This was going to be 1 hectare. This is going to be selective fell. Now in here we've got oak and we've got Norway spruce. So over at this side now, what I can do is I can enter in the 20 cubic meters of conifer and the 80 cubic meters of broadleaf. And then I can move straight onto line 2. This was 0.8. This is thinning as well. And this consisted of alder and Norway spruce. So I've got alder, Norway spruce. So again, I'm going to have to do the split here, but we've done a site visit. I already know that 60% is conifer, 60 cubic meters is conifer and 60 cubic meters is broadleaf. So that is the data entered, and it looks very similar to the information that is in the felling license itself. But if I go into the auto tab, what you'll see is we now have 3 new lines entered automatically by the auto tab. So the auto tab is pulling its information from the felling and restocking tab, blue columns, and it is doing all the calculations and the maths for you. In terms of the split, we notice that we have a split of selective fell, so we've got a mixed broadleaf line and we've got a mixed conifer line, but we only entered one line in the blue felling and restocking columns. So the auto tab is doing a lot of that working out and calculations for you, but it's also working out what the total conifer and broadleafs for the public register would be. So again, if this is a particularly large standalone felling license, you will probably find that using the felling and restocking and the yellow auto tab to be a slightly better way of processing this information.